Hey, g'day. Yeah, so this build came about due to the fact that we couldn't find a hall table that we liked in any of the furniture stores, so we just set out about to build our own. Now, the hall was quite narrow, so we wanted something narrow enough so that it wasn't going to sort of invade out into the hallway too much, and also had to be wide enough to fill the space against the wall. Needed something with storage underneath it for shoes, and somewhere to put your car keys and stuff out of the way. And we sort of knew what sort of style we wanted as well. So for the build we went with 70 by 35 pine. It's usually used for house framing, but we went with the non-construction grade. This meant it's sort of, it's got some imperfections and some knots in it, which is kind of the look we're after anyway. And yeah, being non-construction grade, it was a lot cheaper to work with. The style we're going for was a kind of chunky farmhouse sort of style. So for the joints we went with a kind of box joint because we wanted it to have some character and show a bit of roughness to it, and also it's a really strong joint. I did have to plane down all the lengths of timber just to get them down to the same thickness, and that's just mainly because of the style of the joint. They all needed to be the same size. After that, I formed all the individual lengths into a large thick plank or a slab. It could be done by sort of forming it all in one big large piece, but in order to do that, to try and get it all square and lined up and glued together before the glue dried, it'd be a pretty epic task. So I just opted to make it into 4 separate planks and then join them together afterwards. I also left plenty of excess timber beyond the joint, as I figured it'd be easier to trim them off afterwards, after it was all assembled, rather than trying to calculate the exact thickness and get in the exact length during assembly. And also because if you got it wrong, if you left a few mil too long, it's no big drama, you can trim it off, but if it was a few mil too short, it'd just look really bad. Also, because I was planning on planing down the finished slabs, it'd also affect the thickness of the slab and therefore affect how much timber you need for those joints. So yeah, the decision was to leave plenty of excess and trim them off at the end. Yeah, so each of these slabs came up looking really good, but just to make sure they were spot on, just wanted to run them through the planer just to take off just that little tiny bit of a lip you can feel, and just reduce the amount of sanding required. Yeah, so once all the parts were planed down to their final thickness, I was then able to mark out and notch out the end plates to accept the shelf and the shoe rack. Yeah, so after that, the next step was to start the assembly. Now, I was a little bit hesitant to do a dry run with the assembly, but just because I didn't know how tight the joints would be, but it was actually turned out a really nice fit. So I did, obviously glue them up afterwards, but I couldn't actually find the footage of the final glue up stage, so yeah, it's the footage of the dry run being installed. Yeah, also, while I was assembling them, I kept a clamp on each of the planks just to stop them splitting apart. I was just a bit worried that if the joints were a bit too tight, it might cause the planks to split where they were glued. So, but in the end, it turned out fine. I think there's nothing to worry about. I think the joins were plenty strong, and there was a nice tight joint. Yes, starting to get a little bit heavy by this stage, but still manageable on my own. Yeah, so really easy job to trim the excess off when it's all finished, and really satisfying part too, because it really starts to take shape once it's all trimmed off and starts to look great. Yeah, because the shoe rack on the bottom was going to be angled, for the lengths that formed up the shoe rack, I cut the face at the same angle so it all sat nice and flush when it was all assembled. So the next step was to glue the shelf in place, and this is where I guess the challenge of working at home on your own comes in. In the editing, I've made it look like it was really simple and really easy to get into place, but yeah, it wasn't like that in real life. I struggled for a little bit to get that in there, but yeah, it was a nice tight fit and glued in quite well. I got a few comments on Instagram about the ratchet strap to hold it all together. Quite a few people thought that was a pretty good idea, and yeah, just didn't have clamps big enough to suit it, so it's the only thing I could find that would do the job. After that, then came the bottom planks that I used for the shoe rack, and you use those to hold those in place. You use a bit of glue and screws, and yeah, space them apart. And this is where you can see the section I cut off along the face of it, so it sits flush. What I was talking about before. And the main reason for mounting the shoe rack on an angle is because the depth of the whole sort of piece is only about 300 mil, so I just wanted a bit more length so you can sort of place your whole shoes in there without sticking out. So putting it on an angle like that sort of gave it a bit more surface area, if you know what I mean, so your shoes don't sort of poke out the end too much. And yeah, then of course came the sanding. So for the first stage of the sanding, I used the belt sander just to really rip it down. And then after that, did 2 stages with the orbital sander just to get a really nice finish. And then finished off all the corners by hand. To finish it off, I then used a stain and varnish in one. Now, in hindsight, if I was going to do the project again, the only thing I'd do different is choose a lighter colour stain. The stain colour was a black Japan, and it just came up a little too dark, especially once it was inside the house and you know the white floorboards and the white walls. It just made it look too dark. So, but other than that, really happy with the result. Yeah, it's quite heavy, really solid, and this thing should be around for a heck of a long time. On top of that, we were able to sell our old entrance table for $80, and this one cost us $120 to build, including all the materials. So in all, it's cost us $40. So yeah, really stoked. So, hey, if you've enjoyed watching this video, please hit the thumbs up button. It'd mean a lot to me. And if you want to see more like this, please subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.